2026 home design trends. 5 of the best for a premium refresh. And we were just saying, weren't we, Perry, that we are excited for this topic. We love when they're like this.
Yeah, we're very housey things in regards to decor and softness and colour.
Yeah,
That's us.
absolutely. And we like to give you our little stories. Likewise, we love to hear yours as well. So if you're watching this and there is any of your hints and tips, anything at all you want to share, feel free to put it in the comments. We would love to hear from you. Likewise, you can click the link and read through this as well, because there's going to be some fantastic hints and tips, as I say, because this isn't about decorating every single year, but as an interior design continues to evolve, it is always worth just keeping your eye on those home design trends that are perhaps coming into fashion, and even the ones that are perhaps going out of fashion. Um, when it is,
Revitalise them and bring them back to life.
yeah, exactly. And also when a refresh is perhaps on the cards, because really the trick is to cut through what might be in this year, out by next, and then focus on trends that almost feel long term and almost livable. Even if you are perhaps decorating to sell, or even if you are just decorating to give a refresh, it's entirely up to you. And this is where this will be a great show. But think about long term and almost the longevity of it. But 2026 home design trends have a welcome focus on soulful interiors, kind of over that clinical perfection. But what would you say, Perry, is the 5 that we're going to talk about?
For me, this is really easy. So the first one is what I would say are the 3 Ls. So it's your lived in, it's your layered, and it's your loved. So those are the 3 things, I think, because if you feel the decor, then the chances are that it will have longevity. Because the chances are, as I say, you're likely to kind of keep that going and maybe even just revamp it with a different bit of colour, but without a complete change. So that's always a nice thing. Then I think it's all about the colour capping as well. So if it is lived in and it is loved, then it's easy then just to add a splash of colour and revitalise something that you've always had. I think for me as well, rich and I know it sounds daft, but edible tones, so like your oranges and your lemons and things like that, I think are really great as well to kind of give some vibrancy to a home. Then we're going to talk about statement stone and dark wood, because they always have their place as well, especially depending on where you may live. So if you are near the beach, for instance, you might like quite a bit of stone and wood in your house because it's a reflection of the outside coming in. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're also going to talk about your kind of pocket-sized retreats as well, because not everyone wants a big garden. They may have little terraces, or you might have, you know, you're downsizing. I did that. You may be downsizing from your big 4-bedroom house to a smaller 2-bed, etc. So that doesn't mean to say that your style goes out the window. So we're going to talk about how you can make your retreat look great as well and feel very homely. So there's some of the things that we're going to talk about.
Brilliant. And it's all about blending those contemporary touches with your existing decor and your home's kind of innate character that brings in what buyers see perhaps out there. And do you know what's a fantastic example is a property has just gone on a pre-portal that I was at yesterday. It's in Cooper. It's a 4-bedroom masonette and the decor is stunning. They've done contemporary and modern, and honestly, the living room is just incredible. But it's in a period property, so they still have the ornate cornicing, they still have the ceiling rose, but they've got a log burner, they've got the exposed wood floors, they've got so many gorgeous interiors, and it is like Perry was saying, those edible tones. They've got the yellows in there, and it just works incredibly. Honestly, I was in awe when I walked into this living room.
I
So
think it's a really great touch. We've got that one as well in Penrose Park at the moment, haven't we? And that is just stunning as well. Again, lots of contemporary. There's lots of beach glass framed, nice photos done that way. Beautiful kitchen as well that's blue. So it's kind of a modern house, but it's got a country feel. But then it just, all of it together, because they've used stone, metal, wood, colour, and it really does work. So they're really good examples, aren't they? The one you've given and obviously the one that I've just said there. I think they're really great examples where someone has applied all 5 of those things and really burst the rooms and made them look fantastic.
They have, and it makes such a difference, because this is something we speak about so much, isn't it, Perry? That it's how somebody feels and it's their senses. So I walked in and I got the warmth coming off the log burner, but I also got the warmth coming off the yellow tones. And Oh, it was just incredible. And it's how it makes you feel when you step into that room as well.
Yeah.
Um,
But don't you think as well, though, because you feel it, you know that viewers are going to feel it. But actually, I remember when I went out to value that property, I think the client could even see that our house had worked a little bit of magic on me. So my energy flow went up. And I
mhm,
think that our energy, Sophie, when we do pre-portals, when people have really nailed these 5 things, you actually feel that coming across in the video work as well.
yeah.
So as a buyer, when you're watching that, you actually can imagine yourself living in this house because you feel the
Mhm.
energy and the color and the contemporariness from it. And it just draws you in a little bit, doesn't it?
It does. And you're absolutely right because you'll be the exact same period. But when we say to a client actually pre-portal on live and they watch it, how many times do we hear, "Oh, I want to buy it myself. I want to buy it back. I would buy it myself." Be-
Very often.
yeah, because that energy does come through because we really do. We just relax into the space and it's so easy to just feel at home in
Yeah,
these rooms and in these
really does.
spaces.
And so much so, actually, and even when I did that one, I was like, I did the summary in the kitchen at the end because it was just such a beautiful kitchen.
Mhm.
And I actually did at the end without realizing I'd said it. I said, actually, it's Pay 85 Properties TV, as we would always end it. And I said, feeling like I just want to go and put the kettle on, actually. And I don't know why I said it, but it literally was how the house had made me feel. I just wanted to put
Mhm.
the kettle on and sit down and get a book or put music on and just enjoy that space. It was brilliant.
Mhm, mhm. And it does. That just oozes through, which is why whether you are cocooning yourself in domestic comfort or setting the stage for those seductive photos and perhaps viewings, this is a fantastic guide to get the best out of 2026 home design trends.
Mm.
And this is where it all starts. So, Perry, you've already mentioned the three L's. What is
Yeah.
that? Talk me through
So
it.
you're lived in, you want a place to feel lived in. Everybody wants that. I
Mhm.
certainly, for me, the lived in, layered, and loved are the key things to start with. And the lived in part for me is really crucial because actually, even I've done it. You'll pull up outside a house and it looks fantastic on the outside. And then you'll go into it and you think, oh, not feeling this. It can be quite clinical, can't it?
Yeah.
Um, and buyers, when they go in, you and I are doing some video work at the moment, Sophie, and that's all we're talking about is that your buyer wants to envisage themselves in that property, living there with their family, their furniture, making meals in the kitchen, reading to the children in the evening, in the den, if that's what you've got, watching TV. So they really do want to feel it. But if a house doesn't feel lived in, it's really difficult for a buyer to envisage what that could look like for them. So lived in for me is a really big thing. So quiet luxury is
Mhm.
another big thing. So quiet luxury is regularly featured in the home designs that we look at the moment. So you're looking at design trends, as Sophie mentioned earlier. Designers expect to gently evolve in 2026 towards a more
Mhm.
relaxed and consciously lived in look. And certainly I'm seeing that. And those two homes that we gave examples of for me are absolutely prime ones that show that lived in look. So for
Mhm.
me, the general principles really are really simple, in fact, and can give you a really laid back trend. And those laid back trends, what they looking to include are mixing your ears with your sight. So pairing a modern sofa, for instance, with a vintage sideboard,
Yeah.
or a classic antique rug, for instance, with maybe a more natural feel to the room. They can just emphasize just the beauty of the room. They don't need to be cluttered.
Yeah.
And it can really feel that you're establishing that over time the property's been loved, even though it
Mhm.
hasn't, but it's because of the pieces that you're putting into the room. So if you're going with vintage or classic or modern with a mix, it can make that feel because you're instantly drawn to the vintage part and then you're seeing the modern bits, which makes you automatically think, well, vintage, modern, all that timeline has passed in this property. So technically you feel as though they've always lived there. So it will
Right.
naturally make you feel that it's been loved. And that's where it really comes from. And it's better doing that as well rather than a kind of hurriedly staged ones where you just maybe run to IKEA, you buy everything new and you throw it into a room to stage it. That
Yeah.
can actually have the opposite effect.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Abs
if you are in the position where you're maybe thinking about moving and you don't have things like that in your property, you don't need to be spending a lot of money either. Certainly if you're in Leavenmouth area, top tip I would give you, Jenna May's in the old post office in Leven, just outside the high street. Lots of vintage things in there. So you can do the modern twist with the vintage without spending a lot of money as well. So that's just a little place that you could maybe visit to get yourself some unique pieces that will kind of give you that feel and that look. I think for me as well, loading up on tactile textures even, because tactile textures as well, when you go into a property and you see throws, you see cushions, you go into bedrooms, you see lovely bedding, you do want to kind of touch it, don't you? Certainly I do that if I go into this home. So I often will walk into a property and I'll walk into a lounge or I'll go into a kitchen and they'll have maybe a nice corner bench or sofa area and they've got cushions or throws over the arms. And it's a natural thing as I walk past it that I'll want to just touch it and say, well, that's lovely. It gives you that warm feeling, and that's what you're wanting to create. So loading up on tactile textiles is a big thing. Layer different materials as well would be my top tip. So linens, sheepskin, heavy knits are a good thing as well, and very much in just now. I think because it's that time of year, isn't it? Everyone wants to be cozy. So if you go into a house and you see that, again, it's that mental thing when you see it. It's like, oh, that feels lovely and warm. And you feel like you just want to wrap yourself around that blanket. So again, you're giving someone really positive vibes. One of the things that Sophie and I often talk about, as you'll know, is your emotions. So it's what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling, what you're smelling. And if you can wrap all those things around, it's a really clever way to get your house to stand out from the competition. So the heavy knits for me is a big thing, but the linens coming into play, you kind of can soften that up a little bit as well. So that's a quite nice way to do it. It really does encourage your viewers when they're coming to potentially buy your property to kind of stop, have a look at the room. They might even want to quickly sit down. And I've had that with viewers recently at a property. They've actually said, do you mind if I take a seat? And they've sat down on the sofa, they've looked out at the view from the window and thought, yeah, I can actually see myself in this room. And that's the mental kind of trick you want to play with people, isn't it?
It is, because you're absolutely right. When they do, it's almost like, because we watch for those buyer signals, don't we, Perry? But you see them sit down and you almost see just their shoulders drop, and you actually see them almost like melt into the sofa, and they do relax into the space. And that feeling, they bottle that up.
They do, absolutely. And you've given them a positive vibe right from the beginning. And for me as well, it's about giving them the opportunity as buyers to actually soak up the surroundings from your home. Because when they've done that, you're 90% there. They're in the buying mode for your house. And if you've done this throughout the property, then it's a really good way to get yourself across the line and get a good sale. So for me, that's one of the things. Curating your surfaces as well is a really good thing. You want to have nice pieces, but you don't want to have lots of clutter. So be conscious of your styling and what you're putting on there. Be careful with what you're putting on shelves. Shelves are a great way to give the illusion of space, but don't cram them full of things, because actually that has the opposite effect and will actually make the room feel smaller. So put a few well-chosen books, perhaps, if it's kind of an area where maybe someone could sit and read and you're giving them that vibe that this is the space that you'd want to do that in. You're capturing that for them. Ceramics are a great thing as well. And again, that property I spoke about earlier, they've been very creative with how they've layered the house with things like that. You want to create as well a little bit of personal curiosity for the buyer. You don't want them just walking into a room going, yeah, that's the living room, and walking straight back out. If you're grabbing their attention with the things that you've placed on the shelves, with the soft furnishings that you've chosen, with the rugs that you've maybe chosen, you're making them stop. You're making them think, and you're actually making them fall in love with that room if you do this cleverly. And that's really what you're trying to create, because that's the buyer signals that Sophie and I see when we're out with the viewings, and that's what you're wanting to happen. So that's really important, because you're evoking an emotion in the buyer that makes them feel that actually it's a home that's been cherished. And just by doing that, it makes the buyer want to cherish it again as well. So it kind of has that mental knock-on effect, which is a really positive trigger that you're putting in front of the buyer. Certainly that's what we see. It's all about telling your story as well. It's about inviting them to see that how the home is lived in, how your family has used it. And by layering it with textures, the colour, the different materials, you're giving it really quite an authentic feel. It feels kind of quite organic. It's an approachable atmosphere, as I said earlier, that it's inviting them to come and take a seat and enjoy the space. And so you've got this really irresistible, positive mental trick that you've played on your buyer, that really shows them that that property is somewhere they'd feel comfortable living. And that's what you're trying to create. So that, for
Absolutely.
me, is where you're lived in, you're loved, and you're layered really comes into play.
Absolutely. And it is like, obviously we see so many properties every single day, Perry. And my decor, for example, I'm monochrome, so I'm blacks and greys and whites, but I can also appreciate those colours. And walking into that property yesterday, while normally those wouldn't be my color schemes, I fell in love with it. I was like, I would actually if I could pick this up and put this in my home, I absolutely would. It's not my
Mm-hmm.
normal color schemes, but it works. And I think even just it gives viewers and buyers, when they're seeing this, it gives them inspiration. And that is a big thing as well, to inspire them, because they might just want to do it the exact same
Mm-hmm.
when they buy it, absolutely. But it does,
It's
it
a
gives
really
inspiration.
a good step actually into the next topic, which is about the colour capping. So that's a really good one on that. So what's your guidance on that then, Sophie?
Yeah, color capping. And in 2025, we did actually begin to see this color capping appearing in the magazines and online and seen in the trends. And it really is a cost-effective way to add that really visual interest with almost that sophisticated color lid to transform the atmosphere of a room. The technique is actually quite simple. Um, Embrace the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes not everybody always looks up or makes use of that, but embrace the ceiling. And in 2026, the ceiling is actually treated as the fifth wall to cap with a colour. Now, in here we're saying colour capping. Another term that I sometimes use, or I sometimes see, is colour drenching.
Mm-hmm.
And you do paint that ceiling and it draws the eye upwards, and whether it be to draw the eye upwards to give the illusion that the ceiling's higher and it doesn't actually end and it's continuous, either elongates it or it draws your eye up, perhaps, and especially this works really well in perhaps older buildings, maybe Victorian, where they've got the high ceilings, and naturally your eye's drawn up because it's like been colour capped or colour drenched. It then gets you to see the cornicing, the ceiling
Mm-hmm.
rows, sees all the architecture that is actually above you that you perhaps would maybe miss. And I think as well, it's quite nice if you have got perhaps a building that is large rooms, high
Mm-hmm.
ceilings, to almost eliminate that almost echo feel or really open. Doing that color capping on a ceiling almost just brings it in and gives it that perhaps coziness
Mm-hmm.
without making it feel really dull and dark. And it's about getting it just right. It's almost like defining the horizon. Choose a point, usually about a foot or two below the ceiling, and paint everywhere above that line in obviously your chosen colour that works for
Mm-hmm.
obviously the rest of the space. And then you will actually see that cocoon like intimate feeling. And you know what? If you do it and it doesn't work for you, you just paint it back. That it's as simple as
Exactly.
that. But you
Do you
could
know,
actually,
I hadn't seen it before, but I'd sold a property last year and they had done it. It's the first time I'd seen it. And actually, when I
yeah.
first went in, I was a bit confused. I
Mhm.
kind of stood there for a wee moment and I was looking at it and I was looking around and I went into other rooms and then went back into the lounge. And it wasn't until I was sat there then having a conversation with the client that I started really to take it in. And I thought, actually, that's quite clever what you've done here. It
Mhm.
wasn't
Mhm.
my color, but the actual process of it I thought was really clever because it did draw you in and make you
Yeah.
feel cocooned, as you've said, Sophie. So
Mhm.
I think it really does have that little trick of the mind. So it's definitely worth something to try. And as you said, if you don't like the color, it's easy to change, isn't it?
Paint it back, yeah. One weekend and it's done. It's back to how it all started, and at least you've got a
Mm-hmm.
story to tell. And then I think for the next part, it's about choosing your contrast. So for the rest of the walls below, for your colour cap, use either a subtle, almost tonal variant, or just go for it and go bold. Go
Mhm.
contemporary and really just complete that look in a bold way. I would say this is probably properties than when I've seen it, works more in bigger rooms and perhaps rooms with windows. Be careful if you're doing it in a room, perhaps if you've got a like a landing or a hallway that has no windows. Be
Mm.
careful of doing it in those spaces unless the ceilings are high and it can take it. But if we're just doing it on almost just a normal kind of narrow hallway that's got not got windows or a small space, it might make it a little bit too dark. So just be careful in that sense.
That's a
Um,
really big tip because we often talk about how to put light into a room, and we
yes,
primarily focus on landings or hallways because they tend to be the ones that don't have the windows, don't they? And you
yeah,
could fall into a little bit of a trap there of making it smaller and darker. And remember, when people walk into your home, that's the first room really that they see is your hallway. So if it's not really ticking the box straight away, you've got a kind of negative vibe going on. So yeah, whilst it's a great tip, you got to be careful what colours you use for sure.
yes, absolutely. And it tends to be on that then, just as a little like hint for you all, it tends to work really well in bedrooms, living rooms, dining rooms. That's where you'll probably get more of the benefit out of it and really appreciate it. Um, and that'll also then really help stand out in photos because they're obviously the rooms that tend to be the biggest in your property. So
Mhm.
obviously that camera, when it takes that photo, will get the full effect of it. And then it will give
It's
that
not,
lasting
it's,
impression.
yeah, but so if it's not only about them being the biggest rooms in the property, they're probably the most lived in as well, if you think about it.
Yes. Hmm.
Because when we take people on viewings, the kitchen is the biggest player for many people that are deciding. Then
Hmm.
it's the living space, and then it's the bedrooms, and then it's everything
Hmm.
else after that, isn't it? It generally works in those orders.
Hmm. Absolutely. Definitely. Um, so then we've discussed colour capping. Next, tones. Talk us through that, Perry.
Yeah, so I mean, you're going to have rich and edible tones. We spoke about that
Mhm.
earlier. And
Mhm.
through 2026, what we're seeing actually is a full contrast. We've got some paint companies that are opting with expressive deep colours, exactly what you've just said there, Sophie. And then we've got
Mhm.
others that are siding with the sophisticated neutrals.
Yep.
Personally, I think you can mix both, but that's just me. The common thread, though, for me is a story of calm and emotional well-being throughout the,
Mhm.
the property and how you colour scheme that. Um, your property needs to be a little bit of respite from the world and the noise and your job and everything else that's going on, isn't it? So when you get home, you want to feel comfortable, you want to feel relaxed. Um, and some of the highlights we're expecting to see this year are buttery tones, which I quite like.
Mhm.
And it's like you
Yeah.
said earlier, Sophie, they're a little bit neutral, but they've got that warmth to them as well, rather than going for the right deep color if you're not quite brave enough to go with the all-in drench.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely look at that. So, and also we're looking at kind of freckle from kind of earthbone tones. So again, like eggshell, we're seeing quite a bit of that where they've maybe got a little bit of splash of color in there. Whites that have maybe got a little bit of khaki in them, which are quite nice.
Yes.
Shroon and Williams is a really great make, and they do some lovely colours, and they do a lot of foundation colours as well that do feel quite timeless. But actually, you could nip down to B&Q and get yourself something really nice that ticks those boxes with that colour scheme, and you can be quite creative
Mhm.
with it as well. And actually, if you go onto TikTok and things like that, you can see some really great decor videos on how you can
Yeah.
revitalize paintwork so it's not just plain and boring. And what Sophie was talking about there, about the kind of color capping and the drenching, there's great videos out there that show you how you could do it. And if you've
Mhm.
not really got that creative side and you're not sure what colors to use, again, you can see that on there as well. And you might just look at it and go, oh, I quite like that. Because let's be honest, we all do it. Sophie and I do it every day when we go into houses. We go, oh, I like that idea. I'm going to take that home with me.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
absolutely be creative in how you can do it. And if you don't know where to start, there's some really good tips out there on how to do it. So definitely check that out. I think for me, browns are a big thing as well. I know when you
Yeah.
instantly think brown, you don't think nice, but actually browns can be really warming.
Mhm.
So, if you silhouette them in a room as well, it can be really nice, especially if you've got that late evening sunshine coming in.
Mhm.
Um, And if you want to be bold, like that espresso colours are a big thing just now as well, as is charcoal. I think those
Yes.
two kind of colours are really big. I think they colours are really good in maybe sitting rooms or the room that you want to snuggle up in the evening and watch a movie. They're
Hmm.
not necessarily what you would have in a bedroom, perhaps, but definitely in your kind of sitting chill space, you might want to have them. Um, Broccoli brown is a colour that's coming out just now as well. I'm not really sure about it on myself, but it's kind of coming back to those dark shades that people are using. And I think that those are quite dramatic. Um, but look at, again, dark shades, they're quiet, they're comforting. You can brighten them up with your throws, your textiles, your linens, all the things that we've spoken about as well. So it's about having those darks and then making them bright as well. I was in a property day before yesterday. I'm actually doing the pre-portal on Saturday, and they have done that in their living space. And also in the kitchen diner, which they've opened up. And the kitchen is like a kind of dark wood effect. And then we've got a really dramatic dark colour along one wall, but the rest of the walls are a nice, well, almost like that buttery colour we're talking about. And when you first walk in, it kind of goes, oh, it kind of smacks you in the face. And then you go, oh, actually, I quite like this. It's like a kind of seconds of delay where you go, oh, this really works. And it's quite a comforting room. And it was interesting because the seller had said to me, oh, I know it's not maybe everyone's taste. And I go, well, actually, I quite like it because it makes a statement. And now I'm sitting in here, I feel very comfortable in this space. So if I felt like that, then people coming into it to view that house are going to feel exactly the same way.
Absolutely, definitely. And
And
sometimes it's nice to see something different as well,
mm,
rather than
absolutely,
just
it's that creativeness.
it is. It's just nice to see something different. And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it takes to see something different to give that inspiration and go, why not?
Hmm.
Let's just try it.
Absolutely. And it won't be everyone's taste, but that doesn't matter. You
No,
only need one person to buy your house.
exactly. Yes.
And that's the key. I think dual tones are well are quite nice. So regals, I love the regal plum color. For me, that's a really nice color, and I saw that in a property recently, and it really worked well. You can look at some of the deeper damsons, for instance. That's a really great color as well. For me, those colors work really well. Say maybe in a kind of, if you've got like a TV room, I think those are great. Again, as I mentioned earlier, just for snuggling down in the evenings. So I think those are ones to really look at. Blues are a big thing. Blue is one of my colours that I like. And actually, that property that we've got in London Links, the kitchen is blue, and it's not a dark blue, it's like a seaside blue, and it's just stunning. When you first walk in, you go, oh, and then you go, oh yeah, yeah. And instantly you just get that warmth and welcoming feeling for it. But it's a lovely big room, so it really can take it. So that's what you've got to judge as well as the space size before you pick your colours. Like you said earlier, Sophie, if you're going to be doing hallways in dark blue and plums, that's not going to really work because it's going to close everything in. But if you've got a big open space, you absolutely, the property can take it. So definitely try those things. These rich tones really do suggest luxury,
Yes.
comfort, and that's what your buyer's looking to see. It really kind of feels a little bit warm and inviting and quite delicious actually when you're in the rooms. And I think that that's what you want someone to feel as well. You want them to feel that engagement with the space. Um, it's immediately welcoming, and also for me, it makes you feel that it's a space that I could actually chill and just rejuvenate myself in and just have some quiet, peaceful time and just enjoy the space at the end of a busy day. You've got a full-time job, you've got the kids fed, they're away to their bed, and you've got this lovely space that you can just actually relax and enjoy. Bathrooms are a big thing for doing that in as well for me. I remember a
Yes.
property that we had along in Anstruther at East Green, and it was overlooking the water, and it was a really nice sized bathroom. And I first walked in it and I was like, whoa, it was like it kind of just slapped me in the face. And it was literally big, dark green, big palm leaves all over the walls. And when I
Wow.
first went in, I thought, oh, but actually, after a second, I sat and I was thinking, do you know what? Actually, this is really lovely. I like this space. It was really welcoming and it felt like a little oasis. And it was quite clever because I thought, actually, now I'm in here, I could see myself walking into that big walk in shower with the glass walls, coming out, almost feeling like I was in a holiday vibe, but it was
Yes.
very relaxing. It was really, really cleverly done. So you can be bold and make it welcoming for sure. And I guess that kind of takes us into the kind of statement stone and the dark woods, because those are big, bold things, or can be. What does that look like for you, Sophie?
Absolutely. And done well, they're so effective because
Mm.
we kind of went through the years of that kind of Scandinavian style that dominated, or even we went through that big phase where everybody was doing grey, 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 crushed velvet, grey with a little bit more grey. And we kind of went through those two, we kind of went through those two trends, didn't we? And I think it's nice to see that we can expect to see a return of your more naturals, really dark woods, your walnuts, your ebony, all of those. And actually, again, the property, I know I keep referring back to it, but the property yesterday, they had their exposed solid wood flooring, and wow, honestly, incredible. And it does that paired with your dramatic kind of sculptural impact of stone, so effective. Absolutely. And I think, Perry, you touched on right at the beginning, especially if you're perhaps coastal, and it almost brings that coastal feel in if we're doing the woods and the stones and even a bit of driftwood in there as little ornament pieces and knickknacks. It does really give that sense of outdoor indoor and it being that warmth in your home. Obviously, we're not expecting you to throw away all your flooring and all your furniture. It's a trend and it can be something that you can work in over time. And again, there is cost-effective ways that you can do it. Things can be purchased, as Perry said, there's the vintage places, there's second-hand places. In Cooper, you've got the likes of Castle Furniture. There's all these places that you can go to. You don't have to buy new. And actually, buying kind of vintage and older, the quality is incredible. You're getting really sound pieces. So think about that as well. We're not expecting or giving you these trends to go out and spend a fortune. Work it in over time and do it bit by bit. Because I think when you do it like that as well, it allows you to get something into that space, then see how you work with it, how it goes into the space, and then do it bit by bit rather than overwhelming yourself.
Yeah.
When it comes to your woods, go with the grain. Go with the grain and think about mixing woods, perhaps in contrasting tones, because again, this can be really effective. Think about, and when we're saying this as well, we don't just mean flooring and perhaps sideboards and console tables, even down to your coasters, perhaps if you've got coasters on a dining table or on your little coffee table, your picture frames. If you've got any bowls, perhaps it's got like potpourri or any little ornate pieces in, it's all of those little bits as well, because then it pulls it all in together and it makes it all look intentional. Then do think about your flooring. Then think about your chairs that's within that. Think about the dining chairs or perhaps bar stools that will go with that. So think about the grain and the wood and mix in your wood types. Just be careful though, and I don't know if this is just a personal thing, and this is maybe the person in me that needs things like symmetrical, but just be careful about having every single wood a completely different shade or having it all completely different. Try and do tie it in some way and make it coordinate in some way rather than having all different tones of wood, because that'll
Yeah.
just look disjointed and it will look like you've just gone to a jumble sale and just bought everything wood.
There's a
So just
clever way to do it, isn't there?
there is. So just be really mindful of that we're not mixing too many tones of wood or, types of grains. Then think about highlighting that kind of natural in terms of marble splashbacks. Perhaps you've got a gorgeous log burner and then around it you've got a stone or a granite mantelpiece or a hearth around it as well. Think about that and how it contrasts and works. And then again, think about your coffee tables. Could you perhaps get a marble or a stone coffee table, or even a little side table, a console table, or even can you get an absolutely gorgeous statement lamp? And then actually the base of the lamp is stone or even wood, perhaps as well. Think of it in that sense. Think about all those little bits where you can really pull it in. And then the stone almost acts like that natural and unique artwork. And I think if you are doing a room perhaps where you're going to have quite dominant wood, and then if you are going to have obviously those bold contemporary perhaps colors, actually just adding a bit of stone in that is natural and bright, it almost balances it out and it helps kind of tone it down in a sense without it all being overwhelming.
Yeah.
I think that's key as well. It is just about getting that balance. And then it's the subtle accents. So again, your stone accessories. Think about your vases, the little bowls that you'll perhaps maybe have candles or the potpourri in, if people even do potpourri these days, I'm not too sure. Um, and little pots, and think about all of that, the then look and feel of the surface that they sit on. So if you have got that really dark kind of sideboard or console table, softening it with
Mm.
those stone woods and vases, and then adding a couple little candles as well just to give it that softer touch really does help that quality, and that it has all been thought through and it's all intentional, because you are pairing that almost coolness of stone with the warmth of the dark wood and perhaps any other colours that you've got going on in the space. And it becomes that almost perfectly balanced aesthetic. It feels expensive. It's
Mhm.
also durable. When you see wood, and again, we're driven by touch, somebody coming in when they see perhaps a wood sideboard or they see a big wooden dining table, naturally you run your hand across it. You
You
feel
do.
that quality. You feel that quality in it. Um, so think about that, and then it will, your buyers and people viewing again will settle into the space.
Mhm.
So think about all those little bits when you are pulling together your statement stone and your dark wood. And actually, a great tip, and I have done this with a couple of different things as well. Obviously, we are now in a digital world, and especially AI, it's a big thing, whether it be, Google AI, whether it be ChatGPT. If you've got a room and you genuinely don't know what to do with it, or you're debating on what trend to do or do it, stand back, take a photo of that room, put it into ChatGPT or AI, and you can actually say to it, decorate the room this way, decorate the room that way, and it'll do it each different way for you. And then you can actually compare them and look and
Mhm.
go, that really works for that place, or that really works. So actually take advantage, because I mean, AI, everybody's using it these days. So use it to your advantage. And it's almost you getting to do a dummy run before committing to doing it. So absolutely do that, because I have done that before and it works brilliantly to let you visualize that space, and it is your space. You've taken that picture and put it in there. Works a
Mhm.
treat. That's a little top tip for you.
It's a good suggestion. I think that works in nicely, actually taking us on to the next part then, which is kind of the pocket-sized parts of the home retreat areas. So I think we all have busy lives, don't we? And we're
Yeah.
looking at ways where we can relax, and we're
Mhm.
looking for some escapism in our own homes, I guess.
Mhm.
And I think for me, that's the one thing you want to try and create in your property as well, was a little pocket retreat for you where you can pretty much go relax and just take a breath and catch up with yourself. And that
Mhm.
should be the space actually that you kind of utilize these suggestions on, because actually it's your little kind of safe haven within the home that you can just cut yourself out of. And one of the things that we're really seeing that are popular choices just now are people who are creating little cozy nooks.
Mhm.
We had a property last year actually, and they did it so well. And it was in the hallway, and literally, as you came in the hallway and you went to go up the stairs, there was a whole segment at the side of the property here. Wasn't necessarily big enough where you would put like an armchair and things like that in. But what this client had cleverly done is they had put up a pole, they had a curtain that they could draw over, they had bean bags on the floor, and they had bookshelves, and they had little fairy lights. And literally, the lady used to just go in there, relax, read a book at the end of the day, and just have that quiet time for herself. And
Mhm.
I just thought that was such a great use of the space. So it is about kind of utilizing those types of spaces. You don't need to have a whole room that you're doing this in. If you've got the understairs area, like that example, for instance, that's a real great way to kind of fill up a space, put a little stamp on it for you, and just have your little kind of safe haven corner. It's great for reading. It's if you want to write, if you want to be creative, you're just wanting some thinking time.
Mhm.
It's using up awkward corners as well, because at the moment, sometimes in homes, you'll go into them, you think, oh yeah, I'm not really sure what to do with that space. I've got one coming to market as well, and they've cleverly actually built in a cupboard under the stairs, not like a full cupboard, it's like halfway, and it's got the flip out bits for putting shoes and what have you in, and they put nice cushions on the top. So actually, you could just sit in there and read a book. And have some quiet time. So I think for me, it's about utilizing spaces that are empty. So under your stairs, landings that maybe have a bit of space. I was at an apartment that's coming to market potentially, and they had done that. They'd extended up into the attic, and obviously where the stairs had been put in, there was like this whole area of space, and the gentleman said, oh, this could be a study area, but actually it would be a great little nook as well, because you absolutely could create a nice little safe haven in there where you could just have some downtime, maybe not even for yourself, but even for your children. You know, you've maybe got teenagers that are at high school and they're studying for their exams and they just need quiet time, but they don't necessarily want to do that in their bedroom, because bedroom's where you want to try and invite them to sleep. You know, create little spaces like that in your home really gives something that works for everyone. But what it also does is, for your buyer, it shows you a multi-functioning home that ticks
Yes.
a lot of boxes for everyone, because you don't know what your buyer needs. And so actually the more that you can show the house works for them, the better, would be my tip.
Yeah.
I think indoor gardens are a big thing as well. Many people are doing this now, and they've got areas within the home, maybe in the utility space. You've maybe got an extension in your conservatory area, your sunroom that you're creating. So transform a sunny corner in your home to kind of like a little internal garden, for me, is a really big thing as well, because you're bringing in all of those things that you've just mentioned, Sophie. You're bringing in the woods, you're bringing in the earthy feeling. You're also bringing in all that green. So you're making it feel really welcoming, but actually you're creating a really healthy area within the home as well. And it almost feels like a little sanctuary, and that's what you want to try and create within the home. And for me, I think having those types of designs in the house really induces calm. I think it reduces stress.
Yeah.
It really allows you to connect not just with nature, but also connect with your home. It's allowing
Yeah.
you to connect with, you're at the end of the day. You know, you've maybe been up early, you've done the gym, you've taken the kids to school, you've had your full working day, you've fed the family, and now you just need that little sanctuary for yourself. And those types of spaces for me are really great for recharging and just calming your brain before you kind of head off to bed as well. So it really does help you connect with your property if you do things like that as well. And also, in fact, if you've got plants in your home, it improves your air quality as well. And I think for your health, that's a really positive thing to do. So definitely something to think there. And it's all about really planning your well-being as well. So easy, isn't it, when we've got full-time jobs, running families, running homes, to just get wrapped up in the cycle, and you're on the hamster wheel on a Monday morning, and before you know it, it's Friday evening, and you think, whoa, what happened to the week? I often find that we're busy people, and you probably find it as well, Sophie.
Oh, absolutely. Prime example this week. Yes, absolutely.
And so
So
for
it is.
me, I think it's really great to have that space where you can kind of just switch off and recharge yourself. So prioritizing your well-being and your wellness is a really big thing. I think repurposing space that's really quite unused within the home is a great way to do that. You can make it private, you can make it stylish, you can make it personal. You can use it as an exercise area, maybe where you go and do yoga, Pilates, something like that, meditation, reading. If you want to do a little bit of weights and use the barbells, there's just so much that you can create that space to do. But I think for me, it's about just taking up some time for you, have a little bit of a retreat and a treat room effectively
Yeah.
within the home is a great thing for you to do. Because again, home buyers, what they're seeing there is they're seeing beyond the seasonality of a house, they're seeing beyond the chaos of a house, and they might actually just connect with that. You know, the property I spoke about earlier as well, they've done exactly that. You know, they've taken some of the garage away, they've created a wellness space where
Yeah.
you can go out and do some gym work, you can go out and do some reading, there's a TV in there. So it really is a multifunctioning space, depending on what that particular family would want to do. And you're really nurturing yourself as well. But all of these things and all these words that we're using, if you think about it, you're not necessarily relating to selling a home, but all of these things are about the functionality of that home and the lifestyle that someone will have if they purchase that home.
Yeah.
Homes are homes, they're walls, they've got roofs, they've got heating. But actually, people want more than that now. People want a lifestyle. So the more that you can demonstrate a lifestyle in your home, from how it's designed, how it's lived in, how it's loved, how it's utilized, how it's layered, the extraction space that they can have to do their switch off time. I think you really need to consider those spaces carefully and create and cater for all the needs that people have nowadays. Because actually, we do have a multifunctioning lifestyle now, and people are looking for that wellness part within a home as well now. They don't necessarily have the time perhaps to go off to a gym. They want to use their home to do that. So again, the more that you can show how a space can be used, loved, relaxed in, really can drive the enthusiasm and get you good offers on your house as well.
Absolutely. And I think we probably saw more of that coming out of the pandemic and spending more time in your homes. People put more of an emphasis on creating these little nooks and this almost, it's your safe haven, isn't it? It's your safe space. So absolutely. Well, I think that's a good way to end. There's been a lot of tips, and as we said right at the beginning, if there's anything you want to share, any of your own hints and tips, have you tried something it's worked really well, or perhaps have you tried something and maybe it didn't work so well? We would love to hear from you. So please put it in the comments. Likewise, you can click and read through all of these different little snippets and get creative. Why not?
I think getting creative is a big thing, and using some of these tweaks as well just makes your home stand out in the market as well and help you get sold, as I mentioned earlier. But yeah, share your tips. We're happy to hear them. And that's it from us this week.
There we go. All the best. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.